Vismai, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join me today, all the way from wonderful Australia, where you are freezing. I am sweating. The tables have turned. How
Certainly have.
exciting. So I'm going to try and cope in the heat where you try and cope in the cold.
Yes.
But I think we can unite about something really exciting. You've allowed me to read your book, which is just extraordinary. I said to you before we press record, I have not agreed with a chiropractic practice book so much ever in my life, and it really does resonate with me and how we practice. And I love that you've put it into words to really help the profession. So I hope we can talk a bit about that today and how it came about and how people can really find out more about you and what you do. But what, I suppose, if we just start off by saying, well, what sparked you to put this book together?
I think I've always wanted to help chiropractors find a bit more grace and ease in their life, and essentially collect people who believe what we believe. And that made my life as a chiropractor just a hell of a lot easier than trying to convert people into the chiropractic message. Sure, I know everybody's vitalists and we're all connected to universal intelligence, but not everybody believes that. So I just didn't want to spend a lot of time and energy trying to make somebody believe what I believed. So essentially what I did was just looked for people who were leading a chiropractic lifestyle already, but had never been to a chiropractor. So I hunted down their belief systems, matched them with mine, and then I invited them into what I call a vortex, which is a very simple, pragmatic 23-step 6-month process that I just rinse and repeat every 6 months. So it just made my life as a chiropractor a lot less dependent on my own personal motivation and my personal discipline, but way more reliable on a disciplined environment. And that's what the vortex is. So,
And I think it's what you said there is this book isn't just brought out of theory. It's been your practice, hasn't it? It's actually been how you've run and operated and enjoyed practice for quite a few years.
yeah, no, we've been doing this since 1998, really. And I don't want to take credit for the invention of it, because a lot of the things in it were actually invented by my CAs. We had a very stable team of 4 CAs, and they really helped build the community beyond. They went well beyond the transactional role of the typical CA of making appointments and answering phones and taking payments and things like that, into just very valuable practice builders with me and creating momentum in the community, rather than having the momentum rely all on me and me pushing or pulling the practice along. We put the onus of the momentum and the success of our office way more with the community. And if you're not doing that in chiropractic office and you're getting tired from trying to keep your practice going, you probably just haven't tapped into the massive untapped force of the momentum of your community. There's just a lot more people. There's a lot more chiropractic clients than there are chiropractors. So if you miss that momentum, you miss a really big opportunity to just develop a lot of ease in your life as a chiropractor.
I really like it, and it actually shines a bit of an uncomfortable truth on a lot of chiropractors, I think, because chiropractic is this thing that's meant to make life easier. It's about creating ease in the body and a better expression. Yet we push hard into these sort of business strategies which don't really fit. And there's a real incongruency there. And that incongruency, you know, as Pat Gentemba used to say, will breed a lot of destruction in our practices. And then we call these CAs a chiropractic assistant. So what's the difference between a chiropractic assistant and a receptionist? Oh, well, they're really into this and that. And then when you go and inspect the practice, are they really? Are you actually empowering them to do that? Or are they actually just fulfilling a reception role with a different title? So I think there is an uncomfortable truth there, but also what your book does is it gives people something tangible to change that in their practice, to actually go,
It's
okay,
very
I can.
tangible. It's extremely pragmatic. When you read it, most chiropractors that have read it, they've said to me, I've been doing most of those things. I just didn't have it so structured so that there's a suitable trigger that leads to an action, and that the clients then start to invest way more into their relationship with you, the chiropractor. I don't mean buying more packages and pulling out their credit card. I mean their sweat, their actual involvement in their chiropractic lifestyle just becomes way more engaged. So it's a bit like the major religions, you know, successful long-term major religions of the world. They've got a very clear belief system, and then they wrap that into a calendar of events. So I look for the people who believe that the body's clever. I look for people who believe that their bodies are part of nature, that their body's whole, and that they've got a friendly relationship with their bodies. They're the 4 values I look for. Once I've found them, I introduce them into my calendar of events, which are these 23 elements I call my vortex. And some of those elements work really well on an immediate post-adjustment rhythm. Some work better on a weekly rhythm. Some work exceptionally well on a monthly rhythm. Some even work well on a quarterly or a biannual rhythm. And the frequency and the timing of them is really important, because if you overdo one of the elements with doing it too frequently, it just wears out. If you make too much time between other elements, it just doesn't gain that momentum and that traction and that anticipation that our chiropractic community really relies on. Yeah,
I completely agree with you. And I think we'll maybe speak about some of those rhythms, because I've read the book, but some people listening haven't yet, because they're going to go and get it. But I think chiropractors definitely get the rhythms wrong quite a lot, in the sense that they'll either do a quick succession of bombardment of certain things, or, oh, I haven't done something for a while, and they'll just do one, and then there's no follow-up.
that's certainly what I did. Actually, I just call that the typical random behavior of a chiropractor. And I was a victim of that for quite a few years too, but it's very tiring. So to replace that, we just set up a very disciplined environment. For example, let's talk about the newsletter. We did a newsletter once, and then not for a few months, and then did it again, and then not for a year, and then did it again. But at a certain point, we just stuck to a quarterly rhythm. So we actually called it the quarterly. And we have a newsletter that is essentially set up not to impart more information on our clients, but actually to seed 11 of the vortex elements. So everything I do is about seeding these vortex elements that people latch onto. And my primary single metric for my retention is engagement into those vortex elements. So our CA, Verena, she's extremely skilled at spotting the most subtle or the most obvious forms of engagement, whether it's a subtle comment, or waiting for the next newsletter, or taking a book from the lending library, or getting into one of the chiropractic principles, or whatever it is. We know that when those people, when our clients start to engage in those elements, we know there's a really big chance that they'll be sticking around. The opposite's also true. If in that first 4 weeks of care, people aren't engaging, I can say with almost certainty that they won't be sticking around.
It's so true. And I think I certainly see this with some of clients I've worked with, or associates, is that when they're starting a practice, they're desperate to take everybody that comes to the door on. And I can see that, when you're running a business and there's bills that start to build up. But that really does create this yo-yo practice of up and down failure. And I like to think of this hockey stick practice where, if you attract like, and then suddenly they get that terminal velocity with it, and it really accelerates. And
yeah, sure. So I've got a very pragmatic point for that, actually, Tom, because we've just started a new practice. So you've got all your bills, like your rent, like your CA, if you have a CA, your chiropractic adjusting tables, your cleaning, and all those bills. They're very real. So I like to build, what we did was chose to build our revenue up to a point that was covering all our costs, including my director's salary, plus my retirement savings, which for me at my age, I'm 50. So my retirement savings are about 15% of my director's salary. And then on top of all that, plus 20%. And once I got my revenue to that, and it was like that for 3 months, I could really back off with the let's call it the pushiness. But of course, in the first 6 to 12 months, you need to get the cash flowing and get things established. But if you stay in that, and that's a real stress issue, if you stay in that, you essentially keep your practice in startup. So there's a very distinct point in the revenue percentages that give me the permission. It's almost like I've earned the stripes then to really go on this value hunting strategy of shared values. And I really dare.
Your book really is about retention, isn't it? It's about, and I think that's where a lot of practices really struggle. You know, they're doing all these fancy marketing to get everybody and anybody through the door, which again comes back to that first principle we spoke about of being aligned with you and your values and chiropractic's values. And then they just struggle to retain and wonder why.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems with chiropractic retention is just the frequency of the adjustment. Even if you're seeing somebody twice a week or even 3 times a week, some people see, it's just not frequent enough to get people into the habit zone. And if you haven't replaced the reason why people are coming to you, let's say some Mrs. Smith, she comes to you with a headache that she's had for 20 years. And we know that chiropractic, it's so good. If somebody's under 45 and they haven't had any spinal trauma, we know we're going to get results. You know, you can almost say that for certain. So the problem with Mrs. Smith is life's busy. She's got a busy life. She wants to get home to her family and friends. So if the headache goes, she's got what she came for. If I haven't replaced that primary reason why she come to me in the first place with this vortex rhythm, I can't expect that she'd be around. She might send her family and friends and refer to me as the years go on, but she won't come back because the headache's not there anymore. If on the other hand, there's all these other things that she gets by coming to us, then great.
So without giving too much away, because obviously we want people to go and read the book, what are some examples of places people can start on this journey? Because I know one of the great things about your book is you've got checklists at the end of each chapter, which is really great, and you've got some practical steps of actually assessing where your practice is at and where it needs improvement. But what are some simple things that people might start to look at today to help themselves?
Well, when they first come, the instructions that you give a client to do, whether it's some sort of exercise sheet, I don't do that, but some sort of habit that they do many times a day that they start to think about you. That would be the first one. I'll give you 2 examples. One would be when people are standing, I just like it if they stand on 2 legs, and I explain to them that really supports the adjustment. If I do the adjustment and you go away and you're always leaning on 1 leg, it's just going to make you more dependent on me as the years roll on, and we'll get less out of the care. When you're sitting, try and distribute your upper body weight through 2 sitting bones. So don't sort of sit with legs crossed over and all twisted up when you're texting on your phone. Just sit on 2 legs. After every adjustment, have a glass of water, drink a liter of water for every 35 kilos that you weigh, and have a 10-minute walk after each adjustment. Those 4 things are what I call the immediate post-adjustment rhythm. People need to leave my office with that day 1, day 2, with this idea that what I'm asking them makes sense to whatever they've come in with. So it doesn't bother me if somebody comes in with groin pain, low back pain, a headache, anxiety, poor sleep patterns. Those 4 things make sense to spinal hygiene for anybody. And any chiropractor can dialogue the relevance of those 4 things around any symptom. Because just like most chiropractors, I'd say 99% of my clients come to me for a specific symptom, but that specific symptom goes quite quickly. So, and so does the client, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't want to have this idea of, they didn't get it or something like that. So what I refer to this vortex idea, it's a bit like the white walls and the supportive lighting in an art gallery. I just propose that art looks way better if it's got nice lighting and a white wall and blank floors. If, on the other hand, the artwork's hanging on a wall that's just way less, that's got lots of wallpaper or something, the art just looks way less. So the chiropractic still stays central. It's like the art piece still stays central, but the vortex is like the supporting lighting and white walls of the gallery that just complement that central piece of the art of the adjustment.
I love that. And do you know what's really interesting? If you actually delve into the philosophy, and something I teach is we do get caught up on the adjustment. The adjustment's a huge part of chiropractic, but it's not the first principle of chiropractic. Chiropractic is a philosophy, science, and art of things natural. That's the premise. So if you're doing these supporting vortex things of that philosophy, science, and art of things natural, then you are really creating a chiropractic approach to boost around. Because some people say, oh, we should just rely on the adjustment. We don't need to give them anything else. The adjustment's enough. And especially in the world we live in, I don't think it is. and to create a thriving practice. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, well, it's just more that frequency thing to get people into a habit zone. They need to be doing things that are extremely frequent. So by standing on the two legs, even when they're at something so simple as lining up in the supermarket line, my clients often say, I really think of you when I'm waiting in line at the supermarket, because that's my moment where I just check in with how I'm standing. Or when I'm drinking a glass of water, you know, I haven't drank for 20 years and now I'm drinking again. So they start to see me coming to me as something different than just resolving their headaches, actually.
I love that. So if every practice took this on, what do you think it could do for the profession?
Well, retention would just be a lot higher. So people would be getting adjusted a lot longer. And that's a wonderful thing. That's essentially what this boils down to, that we get people getting adjusted for way, way longer. So that's what happens. So with my practice in Holland, I needed one new client for every 2,500 return visits. That's a lot of people just saying yes to chiropractic, you know? So that's kind of the outcome when you implement this vortex element. Furthermore, my CAs just love it. They don't have to get caught up in the complexity of the chiropractic philosophy. They're very empowered to help engagement with these vortex elements. They're just like a toolbox. The welcome booklet, the lending library, the newsletter, they're just tools that the CA can have in their hands to give and to explain about chiropractic. And that really increases even the financial value of your CA, but it also helps the CA gamify their assistance with you to building the practice.
I love it.
So, yeah, the CAs love that.
And what about the chiropractor? I'd love to hear your thoughts on the importance of being authentic as a chiropractor. And it's probably a bit different in Holland, but certainly over here in the UK, a lot of chiropractors feel they need to put on that shirt and smart trousers and turn up as a professional at work. Do you see any issue with that? Do you think it's better that we just show up purely as us, or do we need to have a sort of boundary between who we are at work and who we are at home? Or do you think that should just be a flowing thing throughout every facet?
It's a great question, Tom, because the practice has certain needs and the home has certain needs, you know? And for me, early on in my career, that confluence, that meeting point of the practice needs and the family home needs, it created quite a friction point. And what do I mean by that? So we had some clients coming into us that believed what we believed, and then I'd try and do my thing to let them see what we were, you know? So what Jyoti and I noticed, we had certain values that were coming into the practice, but we had a lot of values from the practice coming back at us, and that created quite a disparity. So we made a radical shift with that. We just decided, okay, we'll just push all of our private values into the office and let's see what happens. And we did that unrelentingly. And of course, it didn't appeal to everybody, but when those values went into the office as opposed to back and forth, it just made authenticity a very natural outcome. It was like a congruency that happened, and it gave me a lot of relief, actually. Yeah.
It is very common. It's definitely a journey Sarah and I took seriously when we set this latest place up. And like you say, practice should be fun. It should be ease. It should be flow.
Yeah, sure.
Which is what we believe, you know, life is about.
Also, Tom, like just relying on the adjustment, and I'm not saying just the adjustment, I'm saying just relying on it, because I love the adjustment, of course, is where was my train of thought going there? Oh yeah, it's kind of like when we show up every day to do the adjustments, right? That's what I call hard work. But there's something else as productivity. That's very different than hard work. Productivity for me leans a bit more on outcomes, and the vortex compounds on itself. So the hard work I do by starting my vortex, that develops a momentum in and of itself. So I've still got to show up each day and do the adjustments, but I've got all these other elements that are building on each other. I'll give you an example. We do a biannual juice cleanse, right? And in Holland, we sometimes had 350 people doing that with us, you know, and that was my biggest new client acquisition, but it also served as a great retention activity, because anyone that dropped out of care in between one juice cleanse and the next, I'd always ask them after the juice cleanse, would you like to do that next time? So they'd always get an email from us 6 weeks out. Oh, the next juice cleanse is on. And often that was my subtle way of recalling people into care. So this idea of a high retention office, there just can't be too much wastage. Wastage thing, you've really got to minimize your wastage. And I kind of like to look at my system of just like a big sweeping thing that sweeps people along the path, because a lot of our favorite clients even drop out of care, the ones that had time, the ones that liked you, the ones that got results, the ones that shared values, but they still drop out. So it's often not that you say something wrong or they weren't into it. It's more like you just didn't have systems that really nurtured your clients and followed through in ways that made you show up in front of them. And that's the cleverness, I guess, behind this system, is it just constantly reminds people that you're around without me sort of doing a recall, asking them to come back in for an adjustment or offering them a deal this month or something like that. It's just a very genuine thing. Like, for example, I print out our newsletter. All my active clients get that in the office, but all my inactive clients get that every quarter in their email inbox. And it's just full of nice information. It's about different topics from symptoms and values, and it's not like a pushy hard sell process. It's a process that just continually adds value to people. Very rarely do we get people unsubscribing, because the quarterly frequency is kind of an acceptable frequency for most people. And every time we mail that newsletter out, we get reactivations from people that I'm sometimes not surprised by, but sometimes I get people where I think, oh, wow, they're back. I didn't think they were into it. But that's just me with my own funny insecurities and my own mind mess about, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or, oh gosh, I wasn't really present with her that day and she didn't come back after that. Little did I know something had happened in her private life, and she just told me that. So it puts it all into perspective. But if you don't have those systems in place, you're just on to the next new person. So chiropractic offices are typically good at getting new people, but we just don't have this system where we diffuse them through a very well thought about framework for them going through the chiropractic lifestyle.
It's so true. I mean, you explain it slightly differently. We have a systematized nurture and a spontaneous nurture, and it's just so important to keep those touch bases. I mean, Sarah's even left practice, but she started a writing business to provide these newsletters and blogs for chiropractors to just make that easier.
Great.
To just help people out. So you're coming to the UK in September? August 13
and 14. I'm giving my seminar in London.
Amazing. So where can people find out more about you, and where can they get hold of your book? And
maybe I can put the links in the comments, Tom.
We can definitely do that. Yep. Put the links in the comments for you.
The books, though, you can buy it at keepyourclients.com.
Perfect. So we'll put the link to the courses in the show notes and how to get hold of you, and then bookyourclients.com, where people can get hold of the book.
Yes.
Is there anything else you want to leave our audience with today, Vismai?
Just don't shy away from the hard work of setting up a rhythm for your practice. And if you do go to church, or if you if you're involved in some sort of major religion, try and extrapolate things from that and try and see how that could fit in the context of a chiropractic office. There's many hidden gems in the major religions that can really fit well with a chiropractic office. And enjoy the journey, set things up so that you're not all about hard work, that you're also about compounding work that you push onto the community of your chiropractic office, as opposed to just having the weight of the practice all on your shoulders. Just makes life a lot more stable, a lot more predictable, and way, way less stressful, actually.
I love it. Thank you so much, Vismai. If there's one person I think of when I think, Tom, you need to chill out a little bit, it's you. You just epitomize this, like, I'm just enjoying life. So I appreciate you and everything that you have, knowingly or unknowingly done for me. So thank you very much for taking your time to join us today, Vismai.
Great, Tom. I'm just going to show my book here. Here it is.
There it is. Keep your clients.
Yes.
I'll put links to that in the show notes.
Yes. Great. Okay, Tom.
Thank you.